Hello, my name's Jennifer Young, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about developing young women as leaders. Specifically, what do girls need to develop their full leadership potential? It's hard to believe that only 1 in 5 girls believe she has what it takes to be a leader. When we think of leadership, we often picture an individual in a hierarchical position, like that of a CEO. Leadership in this picture is frequently characterized by a male model applying a task-oriented managerial approach. In contrast, female leadership styles are often distinguished by empathy, consensus, and communication. Thankfully, though, leadership dialogue has now moved beyond these two orientations to embrace a framework that is more holistic, empathizing connectivity, personal and group development, and social change. Leadership and gender topics are ones that are commonly explored. However, questions related to how girls view and understand leadership, what it means to be a leader, and the effect that has on their leadership abilities are not. Even though girls are exposed to many different leadership opportunities, how they understand their leadership experiences, their motivation for pursuing such opportunities, or the repercussions these experiences have on their future lives are still largely unanswered questions. Next, we'll talk about a review of the literature. A review of the literature shows us that female integration in single-sex environments, female relationships, how leadership changes with age, different leadership approaches, and what exactly leadership means to girls brings all of this together so that we can better understand how to effectively develop young girls into being the leaders we all want them to be and know that they can be in the future. Female integration in single-sex environments is a major factor in developing positive ways for girls to become leaders. Time and time again, girls say that they value girl-only safe spaces, places where they can confide in trusting adults and other girls. There, they feel safe to talk about issues they would not necessarily talk about with boys, try out new activities without fear of failure, and experience less pressure to look or act a certain way. However, girls spend most of their time in co-educational environments, which gives them less access to supportive single-sex environments, where leadership development is more likely to blossom. Research suggests that girl-only settings promote a greater can-do attitude. They have a greater impact on social self-confidence. They provide a more effective environment for personal development. They encourage girls to pursue STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And they provide more leadership opportunities that are specific to girls. Female relationships play a huge role, and relationships in general are a factor in how girls view themselves. A dream out there is that every little girl who's told she is bossy should be told she has leadership skills. Leadership that resonates with girls must be framed by their desire to use their own skills towards the greater goal of impacting others in the world around them. However, other forces that shape girls' desires for leadership, namely the complex role of relationships in their development, are at work. Girls will often sacrifice their own voice for the sake of saving relationships with others. On a daily basis, many girls fear more for their relationships and emotional safety, such as being bullied, teased, speaking up in class, or trying new things than for their physical safety. Bossy, specifically, is a term that can be demoralizing to girls. Think back to when you were in grade school. Was there ever a time when you chose to speak up and you were told you were being bossy? Did you ever notice a time when a boy did the same thing and was lauded for demonstrating his leadership abilities? Think about how that has the potential to crush a girl's passion to speak up and be heard. In a Girl Scout pilot study, 64% of girls say that it is extremely or very likely that they will have to make decisions that people might not like if they were leaders. And 23% say that it is extremely likely or very likely they might lose some of their friends if they were leaders. Additional research suggests that girls feel pressured to choose between relationships and leadership. The pilot study suggests that 33% of all girls say that if they were a leader, it is extremely likely or very likely that people might not like me. So what does leadership mean to girls? While many girls stress that leaders inspire others and lead with values and integrity, the idea of having to be the perfect leader still burdens them. In the book Odd Girl Out: The Hidden Culture of Aggression in Girls by Rachel Simmons, teen girls in leadership workshops revealed that their worst fear about being a leader was getting judged by their peers, or that people would not like them and would not want to be their friends because of what they said or did. Simmons concludes that girls' fears about leadership are the same fears that they have about personal conflict in general. She goes on to report that girls in this group described a good leader with caring words: loving, dedicated, sensitive, helpful, good listener, cooperative, patient, and equated being a good leader with being a good girl. Next, the literature tells us how leadership in fact changes with age. Girl Scout Research Institute focus groups reveal that as girls grow and develop new skills and ideas about the world, leading moves from a singular approach with elementary school age girls to influencing others at the middle school level. As girls enter high school, their ideas about leadership become inner-directed again, with an emphasis on confidence, as they seek to validate their own ideas and become comfortable in acting on them. There are different approaches to leadership out there, some that are specifically related to working with girls. As research from Girls Inc. reveals, females in this country are still dogged by gender expectations that cause stress and confusion. 74% of girls in this study report that they are under a lot of pressure to please everyone, and 84% believe that girls are supposed to be kind and caring. Both of these findings are in contrast to what traditional models of leadership represent. So it's clear that girls require a different approach to leadership. And there are two major approaches to leadership development in girls' programming that will help with that. The first is the individual, being in charge, and the second is the collective or collaborative activity. Girls and community-based organizations acknowledge the need for both approaches in working with girls. We find that one approach does not exclude the other, and each can emphasize a different aspect of a girl's experience. The Miss Foundation research identified 3 strategies that reflect aspects of individual and collective approaches. Those strategies are leadership through voice and culture, building a girl's ability to use their voices and celebrating their culture, leadership through social action and change, community change that affects the environments girls participate in, and leadership through traditional achievement, building girls' competencies, skills, and qualities so that they can advance in the world. These strategies suggest that programs that encourage girls to be engaged in the community by acting as agents of change may also enable girls to internalize individual qualities and assets that they can use for their own benefit in the future. By exercising their voice on issues they care about and taking action in their community, girls are exercising their personal power and amassing skill sets that enrich their individual competencies. Again, this brings us back to a previous topic. What does leadership mean to girls? Through funded projects, the Miss Foundation for Women identified leadership as more than the traditional model of being first, strongest, and most vocal. The foundation identified 5 leadership typologies describing how girls' leadership is manifested in informal single-gender settings. Since research is scant on this issue, these typologies make an important contribution to the field. The first is cascading. Older girls act as support and role models for younger girls. Next is collectivity, built on the concept of development of the power of the group. Then survival, utilizing skills developed in response to adversity as tools for developing leadership. Culture, reclaiming values and customs to help girls claim their place in the world. Roving, leadership that is grasped intermittently and organically by girls informally in group settings. Research has shown these typologies are flexible. Girls will engage with different approaches depending on a number of variables, including activities, age, and the composition of the group. Next, we'll talk about the research and design. Basically, we have qualitative research, which consisted of traditional focus groups and ethnographers. The ethnographies provided the opportunity to interview and observe respondents in their natural environments, and they were designed to include a range of modes. This allowed for the opportunity to observe girls and boys demonstrating their leadership skills and aspirations in action. Then we reviewed quantitative research through online surveys and interceptions at malls. Two leadership indexes were created. The first is a self-descriptive qualities and skills index that was used to organize and identify different qualities. They were grouped into 4 factors and accounted for 51% of the item variance. Those factors were extroversion, caring, organizational skills, and creativity. The second index is psychographic self-statements. And these statements were identified, grouped, and accounted for 51% of the item variance. And these factors were dominance, avoiding decisions, and positive problem solving. After the index was developed, a bivariate analysis was used to examine whether there were differences in genders. The findings were broken down into 4 categories. The first category is when there was no difference between boys and girls on how they rated themselves. The first being how they rated themselves as a leader, their self-perception as being extroverted, their self-perception of having organizational skills, and the perceived importance of being a leader as being extroverted. The next is how boys rate themselves higher than girls. Boys rate themselves higher than girls when it comes to valuing dominance and valuing avoiding decisions. The next is where girls rate themselves higher than boys. They do so on valuing positive problem solving, self-perception as caring, and self-perception as being creative. The next is how girls believe to a different degree than boys that a leader needs to be caring, organizationally skilled, and creative. Last, the multivariate analysis helped to establish the following statements regarding leadership as it pertains to girls. Demographic variables have a modest impact. Age and gender do not actually matter much. Effect of race and ethnicity is significant but modest. Self-ratings on leadership dimensions are big drivers. Psychographic factors are a variable, and past leadership experience are also a variable. So where do we go from here? There's many things that we can consider, lots of questions that we can still ask. Some of those are figuring out the aspirational gap, the disconnect between girls who see themselves as leaders today and their future leadership aspirations. We need to continue to broaden the definitions of leadership. We need to continue to explore healthy leadership and balance in life. We can provide better defining moments in leadership. We can continue to explore relationships and leadership on girls' development. We can continue exploring leadership in adolescent single-sex groups. And we can continue to explore the relationship between race, ethnicity, and culture and leadership. Though ample evidence documents the positive effects a youth leadership approach confers on its participants and organizations, there is still a need to more formally and aggressively study these effects, especially in regard to community impact. Further studies will not only better serve youth who participate in such programs, but will also inform a wider audience about the positive things youth can do. Such work will support the attitude shift already underway from regarding youth as having things happen to them toward youth making things happen. Much research exists on youth leadership programs as well as how youth leadership departs from traditional styles, but there is considerably less information on how girls are impacted by and experience leadership development. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.